Canada's election is less than a week away. I laid the cards, one reading for each of the two top leaders and one spread for the nation. The results? Unexpected. Even the Oracle didn't hold back. And what did they reveal? Even surprised me.
Truth doesn't trend, but it pulses beneath the noise. This is where signals cut through static. The truth isn't always trending, but it's worth finding. Stay disrupted.
Hello, welcome back to Dusrupted. If you're new here, my name is George Dus. I am an intuitive advisor. Today we have something special for you. A lot of people have been kind of hounding me for a tarot reading about the Canadian election because, Canada is at a crossroads, and apparently a lot of people are saying this is a pivotal election in Canadian history. So I thought I'd do this reading, and I got really inspired by this one YouTuber that I came across a few weeks ago. Her name is Trish James. Hopefully I didn't butcher her name, but she's a gal from Australia. She did a reading on the Canadian elections, and the cards she was using was like, wow, totally awesome. And I thought, oh, I need those cards. So I kind of searched high and low, and I found out that she actually designed it herself. So I actually went on her website and actually ordered this oracle card that she was doing. So it's called the Predictive Deck, and it deals with royalty and political and world events. So some of the cards kind of touch upon aspects of world events that would happen. Very interesting. And I will link her YouTube video, a reading that she did. She did Carney and Poilievre. I can't remember if she did actually Trudeau too. But the cards she pulled kind of resonated quite a lot. So that's why I wanted to get these cards. And to her credit, she doesn't know anything about Canadian politics or what's going on in Canada. She did her readings based on, I think, looking up the leaders in the Wikipedia or whatever. So what we're going to do is we're going to do sort of something similar. We're going to do 3 different readings. The first 2 readings are going to be front runners that are kind of neck and neck in the election cycle right now in the campaign polls. And otherwise, to be the next prime minister is anybody's guess at this time. Actually watched a couple of astrologers and some interesting, I will probably link to a couple of them. One was a Vedic astrologer. She kind of predicted that Carney would win, but unfortunately it was going to be short-lived because due to some corruption charges or something like that, because one of his planets is after the election is not very favorable. So she kind of concluded that he would be kind of ousted out of office in a couple of months, a couple of weeks, at least for sure by the end of the year, the way the planets were kind of transiting. Can't remember which planet it was, but anyways. So I'm going to be doing this reading. I actually, over the weekend, because I had a free weekend because I don't have any psychic fairs to do, I created another YouTube channel. It's going to dive a little bit deeper to what you don't see in the headlines. It's called Dusrupted. It's a play on my last name. So instead of disrupted, Dusrupted. So I have this unique 30,000 view of what's going on because I kind of read both sides and stuff like that, and kind of get the gist of a lot of the stuff that I intuitively and logically kind of foresee are not being written about and stuff like that. So it's going to be an interesting channel. I'm hoping with these readings, one will be geared towards Dus Tarot, which is going to be a little bit apolitical, and then if you want a deeper dive, you can go to the new YouTube channel for Dusrupted. It'll be on YouTube and on Rumble because the channel will deal with a little bit more current affairs and stuff like that. So Rumble is kind of an interesting platform to do this in. So I'm expanding, and so I'm actually on Spotify now. I created that. So Taroscopes and everything related to Dus Tarot will actually be on Spotify also. You can listen to my Taroscopes while you're in the car or running, so you won't get the full gist of the cards and imagery of them. But anyways, so we're expanding. So trying to be a content creator and trying to put things out there and people of the world to see and getting my name out there. So if you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. And I definitely want to hear your comments about the readings I'm going to be doing for the Canadian election. So, all right, so let's just dive into the readings and let's take it from there. So I'm going to flip over my cameras. So we are going to shuffle the cards. Here. So the first reading we're going to do is we're going to do one for Mark Carney. So for the first card, which is Corrupt Dealings. So this card deals with leadership strength, core competencies, and attributes he brings to the table. So corrupt dealings, very interesting. If you're listening to mainstream media, chances are you haven't heard about some of the dealings that he's been doing. So one of the things a lot of people may not know, he used to be the chairman of Brookfield Management. One of the things that they do, actually, oil and gas pipelines everywhere else other than Canada. Carney's been all about net zero, climate change, fear mongering, trying to, and with carbon tax, basically carbon exchange. A heavy emitter can exchange carbon credits and stuff like that. Now Carney's been a big initiator on that. There's been also talk about Chinese interference and stuff like that. So as far as his political, like, he is in the know. He's a self-admitted globalist, and he wants to make the country a better place. Whether you kind of believe that he wants to make a better place for actual people, or actually for the people he associates with, who make a lot of money on the carbon credits and carbon tax and stuff like that. But I just find it very interesting that just how he came about being prime minister. I understand he used to be the Bank of Canada governor and the Bank of England, and that's what the Liberals and mainstream media kind of really spin off, that he's done crises and stuff like that. I'm kind of showing my little bit bias, but usually the governor of Bank of Canada and the governor, they usually set interest rates. So whether he's credited for averting the crisis or not, that's a whole bunch of people's different opinion. My opinion is we did kind of increase it kind of increased the inflation stuff with that. How the banks survived, at least the Canadian banks survived in 2008. Well, we have really tight regulations in Canada, and he had nothing to do with it. So, but anyways, so his political leadership, the corrupt dealings, more to do with being an elite and a big part of the global economic forum. So just leave it there. But we'll dive into it a little bit later. The second card is public perception. If you're listening to the mainstream media, he's a great guy and stuff like that. You hear the conservatives or right wing, far right, which in Canada conservatives are anywhere not even close to being far right, more like left center. So it's been kind of pretty good, but I think it was yesterday that Liberals finally released their platform, which $250 billion without any kind of spending cuts and stuff like that. So more money printing and stuff like that, so more inflation. I did watch somebody comment on their platform and stuff like that, reiterated some of the things, and nothing to do with Canadians, more to do with spending millions and millions, hundreds of millions of dollars outside of Canada. So I don't know how that's kind of helping Canada, but it is what it is. So with the second card, and I did see another video today. Sorry, I try not to put my energy into the cards, but maybe a little bit maybe came in, but Poilievre actually ended up responding to this new platform and stuff like that, and made some very strong cases of why this is going to be a disaster for Canada and stuff like that. And so this card kind of tornado wins. I think the Carney, based on the two cards so far, is that I mean, there's a major shift going on with with the election. It was kind of touted that Liberals were actually going to be kind of ahead in the game and stuff like that, and probably win the election. But I think tides are kind of turning. People are going to kind of realizing, and that's what that tornado wins. And the Liberal Party, and I guess the government's now going to have to kind of deal with responding to Pierre's arguments and stuff like that, because they kind of make sense. And maybe this tornado winds is actually now a foreseeable thing that I think maybe people's opinions are going to start shifting. One of the reasons why it was a snap election and the shortest election cycle in Canadian history is because the more, more Carney talks, the deeper the hole he makes. So for the third card, which is campaign challenges, disaster wreckage. So this kind of reaffirms what's kind of going on with the Carney, with the first card, with the corrupt dealings. I think things are kind of starting to rear their ugly head, and things are kind of starting to become out in the open, and I think Canadians are going to start realizing. So it's kind of interesting. I've been hearing stories from neighbors and stuff like that they've been going to the advanced polls and it's been crowded. So please go out and vote. I'm not going to tell you who to vote for. It's entirely your choice. But the one caveat I do tell people, I'm going, if you don't vote, you can't bitch. So go out and vote. Whether you think your vote matters or not, at least you voted, you tried to make a difference. So there's always hope. You never know. Nobody can predict what's going on. It's so tight. So the interesting card for strategic opportunities is areas where he can gain an advantage. So with this card was the military action. So I kind of figured, I thought it was kind of interesting because the Liberal government seems to be, the whole campaign is basically anti-Trump, blah, 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 blah. He's the bad guy. And I think because they're so much in trouble now, with now doing their budgets and a couple of things missteps that Carney actually, revealed, slipped up on a couple of press conferences, people calling him out on a couple of fact-checking and stuff like that. Expect to have a lot of Trump bad, because that's what they've been running on before they announced their platform, because there's no policies. It's just Trump is bad. It's all Trump's fault, but shying away from their inadequacies of what they've been doing in the last 10 years. That's just my opinion. So as far as the fifth card, which is the potential outcome, there's going to be an uprising rebellion. So my intuitive, and I've been telling people, I'm going, the Liberals are going to win. For some reason, that they're going to win. It's impossible, but I'm not a Liberal supporter by any means. But whether it's a minority or majority, for some reason, I just have this feeling somehow they're going to sneak themselves in. That's kind of my kind of prediction, because generational, older people are voting Liberal, younger generation are voting Conservative. It's just a matter of population and who goes out and votes. So, what can I tell you? So, I wanted to pull a couple more cards. So, and there'll be, an uprising, and rebellion, but, in the future, I think what's going to come out of this arising, and it's kind of interesting that this card came up, because one of the things that's being kind of touted about is, if the Liberals win, Alberta could succeed from Canada within a couple of years or a year. There's already progress getting the petition to succeed already because of the lack of commitments and stuff like that, building pipelines, because that's a huge source of income for Alberta and actually all of Canada. So yeah, Alberta's, I used to work for a publishing company that we published oil and gas news and stuff like that. So I got to learn a lot about the oil industry. And yeah, Alberta is sitting on tons of resources. You know, we'll have gas for like hundreds of years. All the shale underneath there's gas pockets in shale and stuff like that. So fascinating technology and stuff like that. As far as the shale, I think this was like a decade ago or whatever, but the one thing was you know, how to make it, you know, extract it cleanly. Anyways, so yeah, so I'm gonna, so this didn't kind of give me, you know, if Carney's going to be prime minister. So what I do is I use these regular playing cards, and I pull 3 cards. Usually I do this for clients who just want a simple yes or no question. So I pull 3 cards, and if it's all red, it's a yes. If it's all black, it's a no. And if it's a kind of combination, it's up in the air. So we'll see. So will Carney be the next prime minister? So based on the 2 black cards, no. And considering it's a 4 and a 5, these are challenge cards to do with action and stuff like that. So more upheaval. And the 8 of diamonds is usually the 8 of pentacles. So anyway, so yeah, with the because it's 4 and 5, these are challenging. Between 4 and 6 are usually the challenge cards for any suit, and this still holds for these regular cards too. So it looks like Carney might not make it, even though my prediction. But I was kind of pretty more confident that the Liberals were going to get in, but I think things are starting to come ahead, and you know, Carney's past and dealings and stuff like that are coming up for fruition, and I think more and more Canadians are becoming to be aware, which is why the short election cycle, so to not have a chance to learn more about Mark Carney. Okay, so we will get into Pierre Poilievre. All right. So for Pierre Poilievre, the first card, it has to do with his leadership strength, innocent, truthful, which I would tend to agree with. The only thing I don't agree with in some other people in the conservative realm, he's not speaking his truth. I think if he was speaking his truth, I think a lot of people would more gravitate toward him, like the non-decider voters and stuff like that. Because one of my pet peeves about the conservatives have always been, you know, wherever the wind of public opinion kind of flows, that's where they go, and not kind of being set in their ways of their policy going, and being confident in that, hey, you know, our policies are going to work, they're going to make Canadians better and better off and stuff like that. So that's my advice, Pierre. If you ever freaking watching this, my advice is, you know, be yourself. I think people will actually resonate with you a lot more than telling people what they want to hear. You know, speak your truth. Like, I've always had a feeling that, I think he's pretty genuine. Not to be biased or anything, but I think he's pretty genuine. But I just can't give too much credit to the Conservative Party because, you know, they're not. I understand they want to win the election to change the government and stuff like that, so they've been playing it safe, and I think they would get a better majority of just speaking the truth and not worrying about what mainstream media is saying about you, and and how they may sway Canadians. I think if you showed your true self, I think you would have taken this landslide, and Carney would have nothing on you. So that is what I'm talking about with the innocent truthful. You have to be yourself. I know it's a tough thing. You're neck and neck. It's a risk. It's a huge risk. You should be yourself. I think you would go, a lot further if you were just being yourself. The second card is public perception. So how voters view him and his policies. So in line with a little bit more with the mainstream doing it, and the NDP in some extent. Hey, they're portraying they're portraying to the public that you are gonna take their benefits, you're gonna cut all the social programs and stuff like that. And in some ways it's kind of working on the mainstream side, right? And the more political or liberals, NDP side, they believe it. And kind of goes back to this truthful. I think if you came across authentic and be a little bit more brazen. I hate to say this, but I know they portray you as this Trump clone or whatever, but you don't have to be an asshole like Trump, but be decisive and own your truth, and own that you, in the deep of your heart, you are trying to make Canadians' life better, and that's how it should be. And this would not be a factor at all. They are trying, they're being, the Liberal campaign has been very defensive, and including the media too, portraying you in this kind of bad light. So, and it's kind of affecting, public perception and stuff like that. For the third card, hopefully you can't hear my neighbor doing her thing. For the campaign challenges, there's going to be an explosive situation for some reason. And with the fourth card, strategic opportunity, you're going to have to deal with a planned outcome. And that's what this card is. So there's a planned outcome. As far as the potential outcome, the likelihood of his success in the election, this to deal with, more food shortages and stuff like that. Another card that fell out was housing issues, so there's still going to be more housing issues. The other cards that kind of came up for you, climate change, the whole rhetoric with climate change is still gonna still be a powerful weapon that the Liberals are going to tout, and the whole net zero, trying to convince people that, people with zero emissions and the modular housing and all that other stuff, to make it more economic, to gain prosperity for Canada, even though other countries are not, are now going away from the whole net zero aspects. Carney has it, kind of implemented, but Canada is still going to be kind of touting. And so to alleviate all that is the assisted help. So lean on to, again, Stephen Harper or other prominent conservatives, and should be going on podcast, honestly. I know a lot of the older people don't look at podcasts and stuff like that, but you should go on podcasts. You're really good at social media. I think you're a great communicator. You're a Gemini, so you're an awesome communicator. Just make it known. Deal with people's emotions. Totally tapped into, people's anger as far as how the country goes and affordability issues and stuff like that. But I think this is the home stretch, and I think you're going to have to start leaning on to some prominent people to kind of reiterate to you that you are potentially good for the country, or a change of government. So I am going to do the same thing for. So as far as being Prime Minister, obviously there's two red cards. So more in your favor. Three of Hearts is all about collaboration and celebration with friends and stuff like that. Five of Cups is more to do with, again, it's a more challenging card. There's going to be some disappointment. Again, I think it's not going to be a landslide, but you'll probably end up getting a majority. And with the King of Clubs, kind of reiterates that you will be the king and prime minister. So yeah. My views, my intuition is sort of leaning more to conservative win. And that's my prediction, but that's what I think. So next we are going to be doing a spread for Canada. It's a 7-card spread. It's been going on for long enough, so hopefully I'll be able to edit this quite down considerably. For Canada, this spread is providing insight in the overarching energies and potential outcomes of the election regarding Canada. The first card is current political climate, reflects the present state of Canadian politics. So banking and currency, the Liberal Party actually ended up releasing their platform, which is going to cost $250 billion. So this card reiterates that there's going to be a banking and currency crisis because I think a couple of economists are going, oh my God, it's going to inflate cause inflation and stuff like that with all the spending and money printing and stuff like that. So it should be interesting to see how the Canadian currency actually opens up on Monday. But I would say that our currency is going to actually falter a little bit more. So the second card is public sentiment, indicates the collective mood and priorities of the electorate. Yeah, surprise attack. So again, I sense this. There's this.
My deepest apologies. I hit a button and accidentally changed the camera angle, and with no mic apparently not configured to it. So back to the surprise attack. Yeah, with the Liberal and their platform costing, I think may have shocked a lot of Canadians. So that's what I would imply with that card. People were probably blown away, and economists were kind of scratching their heads too. So for the third card, which we have offering donation, that third card represents hidden influences, unforeseen factors, or behind the scenes dynamic affecting the election. That card would imply that expect a little bit more foreign interference to make sure, and putting a lot of cash to make sure that the Liberals are actually going to be winning the election. That's what I would imply from that card. So for the fourth card, which is tensions escalates, card position actually represents challenges ahead, obstacles or issues that may arise during the election process. This kind of builds on the other three cards. Like I said, there's been a pivotal shift over the weekend with the Liberals platform being released. I think that, like, a lot of Canadians are just not going to be very happy. For the fifth card, which is pandemic health crisis, this position represents opportunities for change, potential for transformation, or shifts in the political landscape. A couple of variations on this card. My original thought is because of the catastrophe that's probably happening on the Liberal side, don't be surprised if there's some kind of major crisis that's going to happen that's kind of throw off the campaign and the election. Another variation on this card could be, even though it says health crisis, it's probably symbolic about how people are just getting fed up with our governments and institutions and stuff like that. So people are starting to get just fed up with the whole thing. For the 6th card, Tornado Wins, that card position is a likely outcome, the probable result based on current trajectories. Again, these cards are kind of building on top of each other. So yeah, it's going to be a very fierce last week of campaigning. A lot of rhetoric back and forth between the parties and other parties also. So in the end, the result, which is the 6th card, which is the long-term impact and how the election outcome may influence Canada's future, I pulled the society collapses. So a lot of Canadians, either way, are not going to be very happy with the results, and it's still going to stalemate Canada, if the Conservatives win, because nothing is going to be passed, as I mentioned earlier. The stacked Senate, any Conservative bills that Poilievre and the Conservatives want to push forward are not going to see the light of day unless they invoke the notwithstanding clause or the Emergencies Act. I heard some people, saying that, that is a strong possibility. So, very interesting cards. Like I said before, if the Liberals kind of win, there is a possibility of Alberta succeeding, and maybe even with the Conservatives, because the pipelines may be stalled or may not be built, or everything's kind of grinding to a halt. So, as far as Canada, I hate to be the negative Nilly, I guess. That's the word I'm looking for. I don't think there's going to be a major change in Canada. I think it's going to be the status quo, and it's up to the electorate to decide, Canadians to kind of stand up regardless of what party you are, just stand up and, fight for Canada. And that's all I have to say.
So there you have it. Based on the cards, just to summarize the whole reading, Carney and the Liberal Party are going to be in some tornado winds, as the cards came out quite a bit in a couple of the readings. They're going to have to deal with a lot of fallout from things coming up to light. I think people are going to start waking up and having second thoughts. So it should be an interesting election. My prediction now, currently, I thought it would be a Liberal government in some aspect or not, but I didn't think it was going to be a majority, but it was going to be a minority. But yeah, it looks like I think the Conservatives are going to win barely, unfortunately, which is not talked about with a lot of people, because I think they don't want people to panic, going, hey, my vote doesn't really count. But some of you may not be aware, but Trudeau, actually, his parting gift was to stack the Senate with as many young Liberals appointed to the Senate. So currently the Senate sits at, I think, 100 Liberals and only 5 Conservatives now. So regardless of Pierre's intentions and making all the changes and stuff that he wants to do, exit tax, scrap the carbon tax, repeal Bill C-69, all that is going to be dead on the table when it goes to the Senate. So I don't know how anything's going to be passed. If things are going to get better or worse, I don't think it'll get worse with a Conservative government, but it'll be kind of status quo. So the Trump card, I hate to say that, would be Alberta's reaction, because there's a lot of talk about Alberta separation if Liberals win. But if Alberta can't get pipelines, this country is not going to get anywhere, and we just kind of have to live with it. So I wish I would have better news for you, but yeah, there's tons of issues that, Senate reform, I'm surprised. During the political, I didn't come up, and I didn't realize that Poilievre was actually he was originally part of the Reform Party, and that's what in the past I was a big Preston Manning fan and stuff like that. So this is like back in my 20s or something like that, so dating myself. But yeah, Senate reform hasn't, there's been talk about it, but now we're paying the price for not acting upon it. So it should be interesting for Canada. Like I said, stop the bleeding. I hope we can negotiate something with Trump. I think the Kevin O'Leary concept of having like economic bloc like the EU with North America, because our Arctic, which is another topic that doesn't really get discussed, that should have been taken care of quite a long time ago, is the Arctic. With climate change, whatever you swing with climate change, but the Arctic is melting, and it's opening up a lot of things as far as the Northwest Passage. And the one thing that I think Trump never conveyed was the whole rhetoric of us being the 21st state and taking over Greenland. And it's kind of for good reason, because the Northwest Passage is going to be a huge, bigger than Panama. It'll be bigger than Panama or Suez Canal as far as trading passage, because I heard somewhere for China to ship stuff, if they go through the Northwest Passage, I think it saves like 3 or 4 days in shipping. So that's a lot of energy that they don't have to expend. So, and not to mention all the natural resources and the oil and gas that's there. Russia's been inching more and more in Canada territory, and there's nobody to defend it. Unfortunately, I think Harper actually put in, 10 Rangers when he was Prime Minister, and okay, 10 Inuit Rangers, to deal with the whole Arctic. So, kind of glad that Pierre is putting a base. That's one of his promises and stuff like that. One of my managers was the Canadian Armed Forces pilot, and he was telling me that the 2 air bases that we have, one in Newfoundland and one off the coast of BC, because we have, at the time we only had F-18 fighters, would take 8 hours to actually fly. To have a fighter, if somebody was invading Canada up north, it would take us 8 hours to go have the fastest plane that we have to go up there and defend. So, and I think that's probably one of the reasons why I think Trump was getting frustrated by not defending, because I think he does see the potential threat of exploitation of natural resources, and more importantly, the trade route in the Arctic Circle. So it's a huge economic prosperity, and nobody talks about it. It just boggles my mind. Let's pivot to other distractions, other than talking about real issues and stuff like that. So, anyways, I will leave you with that. If you like this video, and if you can comment, I'd love to hear your comments. You can call me out on things if you want. But there you have it. It's like I said, it's going to be a very interesting race, and it's literally going to be down to the wire. Like, it's Pierre's turning in a lot of people, just like Trump was. We had, as far as the media, it was far worse. We didn't have, Fox News that kind of gave an not saying Fox News or whatever, but we just didn't have any more alternatives. It's and I think I alluded that in my blog article, 6 years ago. So that in our media, we used to have conservative view, we had a liberal center view, and then we had the NDP far left view. and people were able to make their own decisions or whatever based on publications. I think even TV networks were sort of fell in line with for the different political aspects and stuff of that. So it's all gone on the wayside. It's just government mouthpiece, because like I said, don't want to bite the hands that feeds you. So hope you guys had a wonderful week, and make sure for Canadians, you go out and vote. Regardless, just go out and vote, because like I said, you can't bitch if you don't vote. A non-vote makes a difference too. So just like when you don't make a decision, it is a decision, right? So until next time, I will see you back here on Dus Tarot, or on Dusrupted, if that's where you're watching it. Have everybody a great week, and we'll see what happens next Monday. So bye-bye for now.